missing out? That'd be good. So we'll start by hearing from our community boards, who will be also presenting their annual plan submissions today. So first up is Spraden Cashmere Heathcote, and Kia and Sophie, please.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to the Council today both our usual monthly report and the opportunity to present the Board's submission on the annual plan. So we'll do the Board report first, and would like to start off by talking about a reasonably small item, a P5 parking change, but one that I think has a bit more to it. Is this gonna? Is this my the clicker thing doesn't seem to be working. Could we?
Oh, there we go.
Oh no, it's working too good. There we go.
Yes, we had just a visit from, from Kairos Food Rescue, who were very pleased to be having a loading zone put directly outside their premises there. They have a lot of food deliveries coming in, so they were really pleased with that change.
It was, yeah, really cool opportunity to hear about some of the great work that they do, and some of the ways they're working with their neighbours to make it work efficiently using council road space. We had a deputation from the Redcliffs community come in and talk to us about the cultural heritage of Te Raikura, and it was really cool. It was a really awesome opportunity to hear from a community that's done some work looking at this heritage. They've connected with the local mana whenua. They've been doing some work looking at what council can do to uplift that heritage. So that was really cool. And there's they've got a phased approach that they'd like to see come through, starting with doing some of the easy stuff around clearing some of the bush and the scrub, then looking at some of the interpretation that could be put in, and just thinking long term about what does it look like to acknowledge this really important part of Christchurch's history. So that's a really cool opportunity.
The board has approved the landscape concept plan for stage 1 of the Opauho pathway. It's alongside Hunter Terrace, along the river there, leading to an accessible entrance at the side of the library. We loved the look of all the native planting that's going in there, spaces for sitting, for scooting, walking, lots of space for everyone there.
The board approved licences for some paragliding schools on the Port Hills, a particularly exciting sport, and it was really cool seeing all the operators come along and speak with passion about the way that they use the Port Hills, the way they interact with the landscape. It was actually a really cool, and did not inspire me one bit to get up on one of those machines at all. The board is also working through 2 memorial projects in the board area at the moment, one of which is the National Erebus Memorial. The board is currently consulting on the granting of an easement that would enable this project to go ahead. Obviously, the decision about that project sits elsewhere in terms of the overall direction, but the board is working through a process of enabling that whatever decision is made to make sure that that can go ahead smoothly. So we're kind of working through that conversation at the moment. And we'd also like to take the opportunity to thank staff for the work on the Unmarked Graves project at Sydenham Cemetery. We are aware that there's an application to the Crown's fund for memorialisation and recognition of these sites, and we know that there's been some really strong work with the whānau of people who've been through those institutions, and we're really pleased to see that continuing as a way of responding to the I guess some of the mai that's occurred throughout the history of those institutions and the way that we as a society need to respond.
The board was pleased to have good engagement on our board plan. We ran 3 in-person sessions in March, both at the farmers markets and the Hunahei Community Centre, and had 46 written submissions. it was great to see overall that people were really supportive of our priorities.
And finally, there's always community events, and this is, I guess, the time of year where it's getting a bit chillier, and some events are getting to the end. Sports teams are coming to the conclusion of their season, and there's some championship matches on, and you can see Councillor Coker here participating, and but lovely to have the para and blind low vision lawn bowls tournament in the area. So thank you. Any questions on the board report before we move into the annual plan?
Carry on, mate, please.
Thank you. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity to present on the draft annual plan. Obviously, this is a hugely important set of decisions for the council, and it's one of the important roles of our board is to come to this table and represent our community's views. So we really appreciate the time that you've put aside to hear from us. We're going to work through our presentation in line with our board's board plan. We think that's a good way to kind of structure the themes that we're passionate about rather than just having a kind of shopping list of projects. So we'll work through it in kind of some themes, and we would really, it's about the projects, but it's also about, I guess, that overall direction. So we want to take that opportunity to talk in this way. The first plan and the first priority in our board plan is Kia to Kitai, from the hills to the sea. And there's a range of projects sitting in there that are about how we uplift Te Mana o Te Wai, particularly, and also recloak the Port Hills. And there's a range of those projects through your plan, and we really encourage you to fund those properly and to continue to work on that work stream. One particular item we would like to call out, though, is the Port Hills Plan. This is a document that will provide the backbone of a succession of other work that occurs on the hills, and we think it's really important that council funds it, that there's support given for that document to be finished, consulted, and then to move into delivery. And then over the next long-term plan, I'm sure we'll be coming to talk to you about how that implementation could occur.
Just moving on to talk about the Opawaho River. This is hugely important to our constituents, the health of this river and the state of it. And the Opawaho Heathcote River Network are doing incredible work, incredibly diligent, have an amazing report out for those who are interested at the moment. So we absolutely support their work, including planting in the red zone areas as part of that healthy river catchment. Response to intensification. Intensification is an issue that has come through strongly from our constituents. They understand that it has to happen, but they're not happy about the impacts on their lives. So we want to keep this in our plan as a priority. We don't have really set projects that are yet aligned with this, but we want to keep it kind of top of our mind as we see what can be done for people. Where this does align to SOMO, the activation of this area, the board supports affordable housing options, and we have a really cool project in the works there with the Waltham play space renewal. They want to see more connections happening in that Waltham area as well.
Safe transport choices has been something that our board has been consistent on for a period of time, and it will be no surprise that our board strongly supports linking the existing cycleway network with those more minor connector routes. We strongly support that work occurring, and we want to see the continued delivery of the planned major cycleway routes. I think this week we've all seen that, or the last few weeks we've all seen the importance of giving people some options around transport, and we think that the council investing in this is a really strong way for us to tackle some of those challenges. So we really do want to continue to see that work carry on. We have a couple of other projects we'd like to call out in this area, particularly the Selwyn Street Master Plan. We want to see that one continue to land. And we want to continue to see work around safety around schools, and that's around some of those crossing points of streets, pedestrian access changes, some of that stuff. So we really want to see a focus on safety around schools as well.
When it comes to parks and recreational amenities, we're really pleased to see in your budget that things like the toilet renewals, Barrington Park Path, are still in there and funded. These are things that our community's been asking for. People really want non-structured play elements in park. That came through really strongly in our submissions, so that is something that we want to see happening. The Addington Park building is about to kick off there. People in our community are really pleased about that and excited for the Hoonhay Sports Pavilion upgrade as well. We would just note that we're concerned with the proposed budget reduction for the coastal pathway in Monks Bay, especially considering the real support from the community for work in Monks Bay.
Community resilience is something that we've seen come through our board area over the years, whether that's been through the earthquakes, through flooding and through fires on the hills. Having a really strong community hubs that are prepared, that have that capacity to be those focal points for communities during those events is really important. So we would love to, and some of that's work that comes through the civil defence team here at Council, who do an amazing job, and we want to make sure that's continuing to be invested in. We would also like to call out the opportunities for rooftop solar and battery storage. Again, something this week, we've probably seen the importance of investing in non-petrochemical forms of energy. So we would like to, in our board area, the one that springs to mind is obviously Omokihi, and whether there's work that could be done there to put some rooftop solar and battery storage in there. And alongside that, we know that that facility is going to be amazing. We'd like to really thank Council for the support that facility's had from you folks over the years. When it opens, we want to see that the biggest bang for the buck. It's been a great investment, and we want to get people through the doors, and we want to have it in an amazing setting. So that's work around the shared pathway and Hunter Terrace landscape plan, delivery of the pump track and basketball court, and continuing to invest in the Mid-Heathcote master plan. Finally, to respond to some of the proposals sitting in the plan, the Community Board would prefer that the Climate Resilience Fund is continued to maintain the 0.25 rates increase. We do not support reducing the contestable grant schemes. We really see that money that goes into those community grants, it's some of the highest value spend that Council makes when we look at the size of those grants compared to the outcomes that some of those community groups deliver. I think those dollars go so far. We would really love to see the Environmental Partnerships Fund increase. Again, that's a fund that unlocks a huge amount of volunteer potential, capacity and goodwill, and we think that investing in those areas is just it's such a huge win for Council. When it comes to the potential disposal of council-owned properties, the board's position has historically been, as I believe was at some point a resolution of this council, was that the first right of refusal is offered to former homeowners. We've raised this, and we know that there's some technical challenges, but we think it's important to put that on the table. There are specific properties that we would like to see some further work done around their historical significance in that context. So we've called those out at 156 McCormick's Bay Road, 4 and 6 Balmoral Hill Road. And that's where we think there's a little bit more due diligence that Council can do to be certain in what's being disposed of has gone for a really rigorous process. And finally, we would like to acknowledge the residents of Grange Street. We're a street in our board area that it was very, very close to being a full renewal just before the earthquakes. Like a couple of other streets, the diggers were pretty much on site, and then obviously everything changed, and they've been living with that for the past 10 years now. We would really like, we think Grange Street's a classic example of a street where there probably is some work to do. We would really like to look at whether there's an option for a transport freight for a renewal there, but we also think it's a good example of why some of these programs, just the importance of that public infrastructure and making sure the investment is keeping up with the needs of the community. So thank you, and happy for questions at this point.
Now, because we've got such a big day, I am going to run right to time. So we've got enough time for one question. I'm sorry, Tim, that Tyler was before you.
Kia ora, guys. Is there currently is anything underway in regards to the Port Hills plan?
Yeah, so staff have started work on it. There's been some really good work done through the parks team, in particular the head ranger has done some really good work. There's also been some engagement with a consulting firm that's doing some work on it. I think the challenge is now going to be about resourcing that work when we know that those staff have a lot of competing demands on their time,
Okay.
and they need to balance that. So there's work happening, but we would love to see it resourced to accelerate.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, and thank you very much for both of you to come in. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have Fendleton, Waimari, Harewood. I see Jason down there and Nicola. Yep. Welcome to you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Nicola's going to kick things off.
Okay, kia ora koutou. We'll just get the clicker working. That one? Okay, great. Well, our community board has as always been pretty busy. A couple of weeks ago, we hosted our first schools principals meeting for the year, and it was fantastic to see approximately 15 of our local principals attended. That's great compared to the last one we had, hardly any turned up. So this was really fantastic. It was great to have Ashley Beaton, who is the council's community travel advisor, present to the group. She presented on the school travel safety education programs that the council has on offer. And she also talked about how the council prioritises safety projects around schools, which the principals found really, really valuable. After that, it was time for the principals to share and talk about issues that they had, and surprise, surprise, the majority of these issues were related to road safety matters. So having Ashley there was fantastic. Not everything was negative. We had some really great positive feedback from the Breens Intermediate School on how great the new lights are at the Harewood, Breens and Gardners intersection, and which was fantastic. So it's really good to have that those positive feedback. And we also had Harewood School talk about the positive safety improvements out their school on Harewood Road. Both schools did express their thanks to the council and to the contractors for the absolutely awesome job that they did. It was such a great event. The principals are really keen to have another one.
Just one moment, please. So, community consultation on our draft community board plan priorities closed on the 15th of March. Our board members have been going through the submissions and are really pleased to see overwhelming support for all of our 9 priorities. Key themes coming through the comments included the need to ensure the voices of children and young people are heard when designing and upgrading playgrounds, parks and facilities, the need for good cycling infrastructure across the board area, the need for improved traffic safety at key intersections across the board area. Submitters also provided ideas on other projects they would like to see happen, and we'll follow up with those with appropriate council staff. Our plan will be coming to the board for adoption at our April meeting. I'd just like to make another couple of comments on the board plan, just in some reflections on that. It outlined our vision for the local community and does help us guide the board in prioritising its work over the next 3 years. We see it as a living document that may evolve over time as projects are completed or as changing circumstances lead to adjustments in our priorities. The priorities that we have identified reflect the issues raised by residents, community groups and Christchurch Council staff, and we would like to take the opportunity to thank everybody that took the time to provide feedback on our draft priorities. So please be assured we have listened to your suggestions, and while they may not all appear on our priorities list, we will continue to advocate for them to be considered in the council's planning processes where appropriate. Our vision for this community is for it to thrive environmentally, socially and economically while recognising the ranges of risks and challenges we face today. From rising living costs to the impact of climate change, balancing priorities is therefore essential, as is ensuring your money is spent responsibly. There you go.
Okay, I'm going to quickly talk to you about a fantastic event that we had called Kia ora Burnside, Connect at Kendall. Bit of a cut and paste mistake up there. I'm very sorry. We're talking about the Kia ora Burnside event, not the Belfast Fresh event. So we had this absolutely fantastic event, which we'd heard from the community that they were really missing, small community events. So we decided to organise this event as a result of direct community feedback asking for a local event in the area. I don't know if you're familiar with the old Kendall Primary School, but that's where we had the event. So it was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, the weather did not play ball. We did have to have it the next day, our postponement day, but it was absolutely fantastic to see around 500 people attended the event. And even more fantastic was that it was really strong local participation. And I think around half of the attendees actually walked to the event. So that was fantastic because that really highlights its accessibility to people in the area and the local reach. We did do quite a bit of work with pamphlet runs and things like that to spread the word out there, but it was absolutely fantastic. Local school children performed at the event. Henry up there did a wonderful performance, and he is from Roydvale School, I think, which was great. The event did provide a welcoming, family-friendly space for residents to connect, and they did enjoy all the activities, and actually they learnt more about our local groups and services. We had a whole lot of sports clubs, local community group fencing. It was absolutely wonderful for everyone to find out what our community, our wonderful community, has on offer. We also had free kai, burgers and dumplings provided by community groups and support from Kāinga Ora, and these were all really gratefully received. I have to say a huge thanks to our local governance team. Without their support, we just could not do it. Also, our local community representatives, they know who they are. All the local church groups, from providing chairs, just everyone really mucked in. It was wonderful. This was a really great event. We hope to do it again. We do have a short video to show you, put together by our very own Bridget Williams. So if you'd like to have a wee look.
How do we get that?
Can we just push?
How do we get that one to play?
Yep. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I hope you like the posters.
Cool. So with that, we'll just move on to our draft submission, or our submission for the annual plan for 2026-27. So we don't have a large slideshow here, so we'll take our submission as read for everyone and just speak at a high level to some of our comments there. So as a board, we are not supportive of the proposed rates increase of 7.96%. We would like to see that be reviewed and brought down as much as possible, but keeping in mind there's with international events happening at the moment that haven't flowed through our communities and council yet, that there's quite likely to be some significant cost pressures that flow through the country that a lot of the economists and that the government are starting to warn us about, which I think is going to make the job of council even more challenging than it is when you're balancing the priorities of infrastructure and maintaining levels of service and supporting our local community groups and just the thriving of our community. So there's going to be some real challenges there that you guys are going to have to keep an eye on. So I think the prioritisation of projects and really looking even harder than you are already to try and find where the savings and cost kind of control can be done will be critically important, because if we don't take that approach, it may be that the levels of debt that we need to maintain or draw down on to support all of the activities that we need to manage as a council may end up increasing quite significantly over the next couple of years. So we just wanted to reflect that as a broad high level comment, and understanding that it's going to be extremely challenging for you guys in the year or two ahead potentially. Did you want to speak to?
Yep, I did. I just want to briefly talk to you about how important is completing the restoration of our 4 heritage buildings, Christchurch's future. Basically, the board feels strongly that these buildings should be considered separately. The question was quite difficultly worded with a lot of people, I think people lumping all buildings together, whereas we think that each of the buildings has their own value, their own purpose, and should be considered separately rather than a question as a whole. And I think this is what a lot of people who are looking or submitting might have been swayed by the question to consider them all together. So I urge you strongly to have a think about that rather than a package deal, because people are likely to have differing views on each building. So that's...
Yeah, those are the main things we wanted to highlight. We didn't decide to go down to the detail of our submission, but if anyone had any questions on any of our board presentation or any other questions they wanted to raise, obviously it looks like we have a little bit of time for that. Yanni?
No, I haven't finished yet, have you?
We are. We're done with that.
Sorry, Sam had his hand up first, and then Yanni.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. It's just something that came out of the principals meeting, was around those safety improvements around schools, and there's a register that exists within the council that we haven't yet been able to get access to. So it doesn't appear that it's being shared with the community board staff either. I've raised it, but haven't had it back because
What's the register?
it's a basically all the simple improvements we could make around the city that people have raised. Because what I want to do is effectively say, hey, if there's a list of stuff that, like Tyler and I have been talking about for ages, that are easy wins, can we get it baked in so that the work can be done over the next 12 months to help lift roading improvement? And it was basically saying the easy stuff that you don't need to do the massive consultations on, and that are basically not contentious. They're just things that need to be done, whether we need to put a specific budget on to do it. So I don't know have you guys seen that register yet? I'm having trouble getting it.
No, I don't think I've seen that, Sam.
So could we have that as an action to provide that to because it should go to across every community board manager to just get it ready for this annual plan, to make it really easy. What's that?
The program level budgets.
Well, it's literally a list of things that have been raised in communities that people have said we'd like this looked at. And if we're going to do it, because we've talked about just getting easy wins done, this would be a really logical one. Yeah. Yeah, but if we get a scope of work that says we need to put on another $3 million this year, now's the time with surplus to go, let's tag it to get them done to lift the improvement. But we're having issues getting the register, and I don't understand why. So, cool. Okay, thank you.
Sam, and to juggle that a little, because we've got repairs at the moment. Gardner's Road's closed. They're resurfacing, doing a terrible job of stuff that doesn't need resurfacing. So we could have easily spent that money on something else. So boards do need a better...
Yeah,
I know it's opinion, but we're not here to slam council staff. We're actually here to support them, believe it or not.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And we've got 2 minutes and 12 seconds for Yanni to have this question.
Yeah, thank you for raising Radcliffe Road and the need for financial restraint. I've looked at the budget. There's about $6 million on it just for the rail crossing. Is your board looking at options to do the Kiwi Rail work in a more cost-effective manner? Are you getting options around reducing the high costs associated with it so that it can happen in a reasonable time frame?
Yeah, so on Radcliffe Road, where we're at the moment is the consultation with the community just closed a little while ago, and we haven't seen any costings on the project yet. So we're waiting for the feedback from staff on the detailed plan and then kind of what the more detailed costings of that look like. There's been a number of different options explored for crossing points, because level crossings Kiwi Rail aren't super keen on anymore. There was looking at an overpass down by Thompson's Road, which was going to cost in excess of $10 million. They were looking at doing an underbridge, but the water table over that area is too high, so doing something like that would be kind of cross prohibitive as well. So the only option we're really left with to make a safe crossing point is that level crossing, and then the standards that we have to abide by, I guess pushed down by Kiwi Rail. We don't have a lot of choice on in terms of what the actual safety requirements are for those level crossings. So we kind of have our hands tied on that one, and we're just waiting to see, once all the information flows through, what the actual details will look like.
And do you know when Kiwi Rail, it says in your report they haven't approved it, is yet to be approved. So are they waiting for our consultation to finish, and then we'll go back and...
No, so there's a few things going on in parallel there. The Kiwi Rail, I think the initial design has been, so the very initial design was provided to Kiwi Rail. They've given up to a 12-month time frame before they come back on that one, and then there's up to another 18 months to 2-year delay before the final design gets signed off by Kiwi Rail. So there's quite a few delays there, and it is still the second priority in Christchurch, but it seems just from the workload of the Kiwi Rail staff in terms of how quickly they can progress these rail crossing projects, is there's going to be quite a long time before we actually get to the point of shovels in the ground.
Thank you, Jason. That's spot on timing. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Good on you. Good to see you too. Okay, Marie, and is Sarah here too? Yep, good. Yes, I know who it is.
Right, apologies from Sarah. And, okay, kia ora. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present the report of the Waipuna, Holswell, Hornby, Riccarton Community Board. Now moving on to the Community Board updates. The board chose to submit to ECAN's draft annual plan. I won't go into the details of it, but the submission includes feedback on issues that relate to and are in the Community Board's area only. That is Holswell, Hornby, and Riccarton. Now, Awatea Athletics at Te Kahu Park, the Community Board approved the placement of storage containers, construction of athletic facilities, and a ground lease of approximately 1,600 square meters of Te Kahu Park to Awatea Athletics Club, subject to the plans in the report attachments presented to the board at its meeting on March 10th. Next one, we've got, in preparation for the opening of the Strengthening Communities Fund in 2026, the Hui on February 5th brought together more than 40 leaders and organizations from Holswell, Hornby, and Riccarton. The gathering focused on building relationships, shaping shared community aspirations, and creating space for Korero with local community board members. The day included an organization expo highlighting the impressive mahi happening across our communities, along with 4 leadership sessions. These are the strategic mapping and impact reporting for community organizations, beginning and strengthening their organization's Te Ao Maori journey, effective youth engagement and meaningful approaches to involving young people, and understanding funding priorities and preparing for 2026. Now, insights from the community visioning sessions will be shared soon. Early feedback indicates that attendees found the Hapori Hui valuable and have requested additional leadership sessions in the near future. Now, Connect 2026 was held on Friday, February 20th at Harrington Park, a free community event that brought Riccarton residents together to share an array of food, enjoy activities, and take part in friendly competitions such as the popular tug of war, strengthening local connections. And Philippines Day 2026, Philippines Day brought a fun-filled celebration of Filipino culture to Ray Blanc Park on Sunday, February 22nd. The festivities featured outdoor games and activities, live music, cultural dances, and a variety of delicious Filipino dishes, offering a welcoming space for connection and an opportunity to enjoy Filipino culture. And I think just a couple of weeks ago, we celebrated Culture Galore, but here at the Multicultural Center, and it was also very successful. I now move on to the board's annual plan submission. If you don't have any questions on the board presentation, happy to.
No, we keep going, and then I'll give more time at the end, hopefully, because the clock is on, sorry.
Cool. So, thank you again this time for the opportunity to speak to the submission of the Waipuna, Holswell, Hornby, Riccarton Community Board on the draft annual plan 2026-2027. I'm not going to touch on every detail of our submission. I just have a short summary of what matters most to the board. Now, the board understands how hard staff and councillors have worked on the draft annual plan 2026-27, trying to balance the many competing needs of the city while minimizing the impact on rates, and appreciates the efforts put into it. The board, however, considers that the proposed average rates increase of 7.96% across all ratepayers and an average residential rates increase of 7.4% is just too high for many of its residents. The board is conscious that many families are already suffering with the current cost of living only, made worse by the fuel crisis, and asks that the council does whatever it can to keep rates increases as low as possible. Regarding fees and charges, the board supports a balanced approach, that is, recover costs where appropriate and ensure affordability and accessibility for residents. In terms of capital spending, the board is aware of many projects, particularly transport projects, that are desperately needed in the board area to address the effects of high rapid growth. It recognizes, however, that funding for these is simply not currently available, and has in its submission pointed to a number of projects that it considers need to be provided for in the long-term plan coming up. Now, given my previous comments regarding the impact that rising costs is having on residents, the board considers it is important that funding contestable community grants be retained at the proposed $7.12 million. The board understands that reduction of the amount available in some contestable grant schemes could result in lowering the rates increase by a small amount, but considers that the value gained from community grants far outweighs their dollar value. The board values the work undertaken by a range of community groups that are the recipient of grants to enriching the lives of local people. Now, in its submission, the board indicated its support for the proposal to continue with the planned 0.25% rates increase in 2026-27 for the Climate Resilience Fund. This support was given on the basis that the fund ring-fences rates collected now to invest in future adaptation work. Subsequently, this is after lodging the board submission, board members have been alerted that this may not be how the fund works, and there may be a loan arrangement involved. The board recently received clarification from staff, and we will need time to consider this and come back to you with the board's final position. Now, the board's key message in our submission emphasizes affordability for residents, targeted investment in essential infrastructure, and strong support for community funding while advocating for careful prioritization to manage rates impacts. That's it, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, yes, please. Mark, please.
Thank you. So, did I hear you correctly that the board's still undecided around the Climate Resilience Fund?
At this stage, because we lodged a submission, we had the position, and then subsequently we've had some further information. And so I've asked the board to come back to me, but I haven't had the time to hear from everybody. So we'll park that in the meantime.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, we'll come back to you for a final board decision on that.
excellent. Be pleased to hear that when it finally comes out.
Yes.
And I noticed there you've got a number of capital projects that you've listed, and you're obviously keen to see progress around those priorities around the wards.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Thank
we
you.
will push for it.
Excellent. Good on you.
Good on you. Thank you, Marie and Bailey. Good on you. Right, Paul and Jackie, please, from Coastal Burwood Linwood, please.
Kia ora, e te whānau. Good morning, councillors.
Morning.
Just looking for everyone to stop talking to their neighbours. So here we are. Some highlights from our board area, just quickly this morning. We had Estuary Fest in South New Brighton for the first time this year, and that was a brilliant event whereby there were a lot of interactive education stalls to actually help people learn about the estuary. So that was great. And we also had the Bromley Annual Fair. Now this event is put on by the Bromley Community Centre and it saw the biggest turnout yet. I have seen those events at Bromley Park run by the Community Centre are growing all the time. It's always a fun day to go down there. And last highlight for today is just we had a number of neighbourhood barbecues over the summer period that the community board supported. And moving right on to the wastewater treatment plant, yes, it still stinks, we know that, and some days are worse than the others, today being one of the worst ones as I walked out the door. We do support the 99% option with the aerators. And that's all from me, so over to you, Paul.
Jackie. Tēnā koutou katoa I te koramātene me ngā kaunihira. He mihi nui tō mātou ki te tū I konei e tēnei ata ki te noho I runga I ngā pā o te āhuru I runga I te moana. Thank you for having us here this morning. In this time of uncertainty, we're grateful to be able to participate freely in our local democratic process. Our draft board plan identifies a set of priority projects we are asking the council to support. Smith Street Service Centre reutilisation, which we've already brought to your attention, and which will really help the regeneration of the area. Pages Road Bridge, which we know you all want to get done. The major cycle routes, the east should not be the only area without one. Burwood Maireho Roads intersection improvements, which need to top up for the lights. A new Marshland Community Centre based on the business case, Wainoni Park lighting, which we would like to obtain council funding for, Rāwhiti School area safety improvements, and the completion of the new Brighton master plan, which is going gangbusters but needs completion, including funding for necessary land acquisition. There is a long list of improvements, increases of service levels and renewals that we would like to see if money and resources were unlimited, but we know that they are not. On balance, we think that the council is trying to do the right thing. We support the rates increases as a practical necessity. The services and infrastructure our communities depend on and want cost money, and the structural pressures driving that 7.9% proposed increase are real. Those pressures are nothing compared to what is likely coming thanks to the war in the Middle East, even if it was magically ended tomorrow. We ask the council to be much more explicit in future consultation documents about exactly what is driving the gap between the proposed rates increase and the costs to local government. Is it debt servicing? Is it operating overruns? Is it long-term plan commitments? Our communities need to be able to understand exactly what they're paying for and why it costs more. So I'm not disputing that we need to spend that money, but rather I think we need to be clearer what's driving the cost increases in the consultation document. And we also want to be clear about who feels the rates burden most acutely. So Waitai has a higher than average proportion of renters, fixed income residents and lower income households. Renters cannot access the rates rebate scheme or postponement schemes, but the rates increases are still passed on to them in higher rents. We encourage the council to think harder about how it promotes existing rates relief mechanisms and to develop a medium-term strategy that stops concentrating cost pressures on people least able to absorb them. As a starting point, we would ask the council to look seriously at reducing the uniform annual general charge. The Shan report recommended that nearly 20 years ago, and the argument hasn't got any weaker. So on contestable community grants and the Environmental Partnership Fund, we do not support any cuts to these. The return on investment in community grants in particular is immense. The downstream costs of cutting them do not disappear. They just shift onto health services, social services and taxpayers, and will also mean job losses in the community sector in a time of immense economic uncertainty. And we also support continuing contributions to the Climate Resilience Fund. The cost of not investing now will be far greater than the 0.25% increase proposed. We should not be kicking the can down the road. On the capital program, we have two major concerns. First, flooding. Several Three Waters projects in our area have been deferred or rephased, can't quite tell what. So the Northeast Relief Trunk Sewer, Estuary Edge flood mitigation, the Waikakariki Horseshoe Lake outlet renewal, and multiple pump station renewals. And these are not minor tidying up projects. Flooding is one of the top concerns of people who live in Waitai, and critically residents with lower incomes are less likely to have comprehensive insurance. The Council's duty of care does not diminish when its capital program is under pressure. If anything, the obligation to protect vulnerable communities from flood risk becomes more acute. And we, as a board, would like to understand what criteria were applied to these deferrals and would like assurance that public safety and health has been weighed appropriately. On landfill remediations, we have received some helpful clarification since lodging our submission. We understand the Burwood closed landfill deferral reflects the site's ongoing operational status while resource consents are sought for continued use. That makes sense, and I'm satisfied with the explanation. However, cancellation of the gas plant seems a bit short-sighted. On the Bexley landfill, which keeps being deferred, we understand planning and design work is underway, and resource consents are being progressed, with physical works expected to begin late in the financial year 27-28, and we welcome that. We ask that the council simply hold to that timeline and not push it back further, and as I said before, it's been deferred several times, and our communities would like to see it sorted. We also raised the Pages Road Bridge renewal rephasing and asked for a firm delivery schedule. And we support the continued funding of both the Otakaro, Avon and the Opawaho River MCRs in their planning phases. So we should get them ready to go. And we could not find the Pegasus-based stormwater ocean outfall pipes anywhere in the plan. They're in the long-term plan. So no renewal, no extension, no assessment. So we'd like to know what, if there is one, what is the renewal timeline and what reassurance can local residents have that the key source of flooding in that area is going to be resolved. Finally, the wastewater treatment plant continues to affect the well-being of our residents in the area, and we ask the council continues and works to ensure adequate ongoing funding for the community well-being response for as long as it is needed. And also, as noted earlier, we support the 99% aeration option for the ponds. So thank you, and happy to take any questions. Kia ora.
Thanks, Paul. And Jackie, got a couple here. Just one, I didn't quite hear you. Did you say about down the landfill about the gas or something? Did I?
So there's a gas plant that was supposed to be renewed or built at the Burwood landfill. There is gas that's produced there.
Yeah, that's the landfill gas coming out. Yeah.
So it looks to have just been cut from the plan.
Right, that's because I think there's no gas in the dump anymore, I think. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So, okay, thank you for the question. Pauline, please.
Thank you. Just a question for staff regarding those 4 flood mitigation projects that Paul mentioned around the Estuary Edge, the Horseshoe Lake, the pump stations in the northeast. What was that one? The northeast?
So the northeast trunk. So that's Anzac Drive.
Yeah. Can we please get some information on the effect of deferring those, please? Thank you. Just
hopefully Gavin's heard that. We'll come back with some.
Yeah, thank you.
And Tyler.
Kia ora, Paul and Jackie. It's great that you told us how you feel about the aerator, your position on the aerators. The question I've got is around the stuff outside of that, obviously the community activation stuff. Now that it's been a few months, you probably get more of an idea on what's needed for the community. Would you be able to tell us a bit more about what's needed in terms of the
We were just
psychosocial stuff?
waiting for a briefing at the moment, so I think it'd be too early to say, but just that we appreciate that the resources have been put there in place and the work that Gary has been doing in particular, and with our local staff team, and that it's really building the trust and the key connections until the next time that something happens. And I guess it's not being caught flat-footed as we have in the past is the key. And I emphasise that. There's the big part of the challenge last time is that we were caught flat-footed, and that meant that we were having to play catch-up.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, both you. Oh, Yanni.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of the Weaving the East project, I know you talk about the ongoing operational support, but is there a need for some capital to be put towards the tasks that have been identified through that process to get them delivered?
As I mentioned, I think when you asked me a similar question last time, I think it'd be good to have a fund there available for new initiatives, but we wouldn't want to see, essentially a fund being given to fund things that were already funded. But it would be good to have a capital, like a pool there to fund initiatives if they came up.
Right, so is the community board able to provide the councillors with a list of what those outstanding tasks are and what the budget requirements are?
Those are all in they were all available to the council in the report that was given to you at the briefing recently. So yes.
Okay, I don't think we have the tasks.
Yes,
thank you very much.
I believe that you do.
We did? Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Very good to see you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Lynn and Nigel, please, from Banks Peninsula.
Morena, e te whana. We're doing very well with these longer presentations this morning. Thank you for your time. Of course, I will start today talking about the flooding before highlighting two strong examples of community building, the Atahua Community Trust and the Littleton Harbour Information Centre. We'll then focus on the key points of our annual plan submission, where the decisions we make now will shape the future of Banks Peninsula. So no pressure, it's all good. So, there we go. Is that better? I can hear myself, it's disconcerting, but I'll ignore that. Starting with the flooding. Following the February event, recovery work is ongoing. Many of our communities are still living with the effects, whether that's damage to property, disruption to access, or simply the uncertainty that comes with knowing it could happen again. The focus is now shifting again from response to prevention. Thank you so much for your question last month in regards to how you all can help. Appreciate that, especially Yanni. This presentation will aim to answer that, so get ready to take notes. We've seen river works undertaken by ECAN, funded through the Wariwa River Ratings District. This work is important and it's ongoing, but the reality is the funding alone is not enough to mitigate future flood risks, particularly within the village and on State Highway 75, where the impacts have the potential to cut off access to a majority of the peninsula. What we need now is a more coordinated and adequately resourced approach. Using the already established Flooding Roundtable group is important going forward. It provides a space for residents, agencies and stakeholders to come together, share concerns and ensure that local knowledge is part of the solution. And it has been doing this for about 2.5 years successfully. That kind of collaboration is so essential because the people who live in the area understand the issues in a way that data alone cannot capture. At the same time, this work must be supported by robust modelling and, critically, by funding that matches the scale of the challenge. We need to solidify that funding as soon as possible because, as we know, the flooding will not wait for us. That means investing now and not later. There is also debrief meetings with local emergency resilience groups that are underway. They help us to understand what worked,
what didn't, and where there needs to be an improvement, particularly when it comes to communication, coordination and preparedness. Thank you.
Kia ora tātou, ko Nigel Miller toko ino, tēnā koutou, koutou. We want to highlight a great example of what connected communities can achieve, being the Atua Community Trust in Kaituna Valley. In late 2025, the residents stepped up to form the trust as a charitable organisation with a vision of creating a community that values its history and protects its natural environment. And they provide spaces through Kaituna Hall, the reserve and the wider domain that are already delivering on this vision, as was made evident during the recent flooding emergency. They have a collective weeding team, and they're working hard to strengthen the social connection through their disparate community, including the shenanigans of an annual cricket competition involving other parts of Banks Peninsula. They're creating and building relationships which are truly strong. Another example of a very different way we are working is the Littleton Harbour Information Centre. This is a time when you might think that physical information centres are obsolete, but the reality on Banks Peninsula is quite different. These centres in Littleton, Akaroa and Little River are not only relevant, they are thriving. We don't want our tourists to ghost through Banks Peninsula looking at their screens where to go. We'd like them to meet the real people and get to know our community and make it a proper experience. In 2025, only 17% of the people who went into that centre in Littleton came from cruise ships, telling you something different to what you might expect. Volunteers report that some visitors have come straight from Christchurch Airport, noting that Littleton had an available information centre, looking for face-to-face advice. Local knowledge and personal interactions still matter, and these volunteer-run centres create a great form of community participation that supports local businesses, strengthens experiences. And this is why the board is seeking a small amount of ongoing funding, a modest investment that delivers, we believe, significant economic value.
Now turning to the annual plan, we will go through some examples from our submission. But time doesn't allow us to cover everything, so here goes. At the heart of this submission is a simple but important message that climate resilience and emergency management are critical priorities for Banks Peninsula. They are essential not only for the safety and well-being of our communities, but also for restoring and maintaining confidence in council. So first, the Climate Resilience Fund. The board strongly supports maintaining this fund. Given the peninsula's exposure to coastal hazards, extreme weather and infrastructure vulnerability, proactive investment is not optional, it's essential. Every dollar spent on resilience is a dollar well managed, evidenced from IAG's independent Sapere analysis shows that proactive mitigation saves $5 to $6 in future recovery costs for every dollar invested. Secondly, Akaroa Harbour Climate Adaptation Planning. This is critical. Akaroa faces increasing risks from sea level rise, storm surge and erosions. Prioritising adaptation planning here is critical for giving the community clarity, confidence and a pathway forward for this economically important community. The board strongly advocates for Akaroa to be prioritised for the next stage of coastal adaptation planning. Emergency hub development and comms communications. One of the clearest lessons from recent events is how vulnerable our community systems are. We need reliable alternatives, including low Earth orbit satellite internet, access to Orion radio system, and a more robust land-based connection. Because in an emergency, communication really is everything. Marine structures. Wharves and jetties are not just recreational assets, they are lifelines. They support access, response and recovery when roads are compromised. The board supports continued investment in maintaining and upgrading these structures so that they remain safe, functional and resilient when we need them most. Emergency access or rural roads. Many communities on the peninsula rely on single access routes. When those routes are cut off, the consequences are immediate and serious. Improving resilience and ensuring rapid restoration after events is a priority. This leads directly into rural road infrastructure. These roads are essential, not optional. They connect communities, support local economies, and enable emergency services to operate. We advocate for increased investment in rural road infrastructure. When we rebuild, we should not simply replace what was there before. We should build better with resilience in mind.
I'll continue on our submission. The environment. In Banks Peninsula, the environment is us, we are the environment. We strongly support the continuation and the increase in Environmental Partnerships Fund. These are community-led initiatives that deliver real results in biodiversity, pest control, and environmental restoration. We cannot be a healthy community without a healthy environment. They also offer an excellent return on investment, and they leverage substantial volunteer effort for a long-term gain and maintaining our ecosystem and reputation. Similarly, the contestable community grants are very important to us, and we believe they must continue. We do not support any reduction. These are the things that support organisations that hold our communities together. Reducing them would not save money. It would simply increase demands on the council for services that we are leveraging through volunteer input. And it would weaken the networks that make our communities resilient. Our reserve committees on the peninsula are particularly important and a unique, valuable part of local governance. They enable locally driven decision making and ensure that our reserves are managed in a way that reflects community needs, not just for our local communities, but of course for wider Christchurch. This includes maintaining an appropriate funding mechanism that support the projects mentioned in our written submission about Stanley Park, Le Bons Bay and Littleton reserves. We also support the initiative for a multicultural facility in Akaroa, an investment in community spaces such as the Port Levy Hall, which plays a dual role as a gathering place and an emergency hub, noting that it needs to be earthquake protected by 2037. Visitors and tourism. It is a vital part of the economy in the peninsula. It does bring pressure on infrastructure, so we need to ensure that the investment keeps pace, particularly in areas such as public toilets, which are currently underfunded over the next 10 years, but essential, both for our visitors and for public health. We would like you to revisit the funding for this issue. Short-term accommodation. The board would like to see a proportion of visitor-generated revenue reinvested in areas where it is generated to maintain infrastructure, protect environmental values, and supporting our host communities, including things like the information centres, which I have mentioned, and the destination management plan. While the short-term accommodation does contribute to the economy, it also affects housing availability for residents and workers, and it is important this is managed appropriately. In closing, the themes through all of this are clear: resilience, connection, and community. Whether we're talking about flooding, local initiatives like the Value of Information Centres, or the priorities in our annual plan, it all comes back to building strong, connected communities that are prepared for challenges ahead. We have seen what our communities are capable of, and they never cease to surprise and amaze me. Now you can help us by ensuring the planning, the funding, and the decisions support them to continue with that work. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you very much. We have one question from Tyrone.
Oh, it's probably three questions, if I may.
No,
just
we've got
noting.
time.
Actually, I just wanted to clarify, you did mention low Earth orbit satellite communication. I think that, as loath as I am to say it, we're talking Starlink's probably the best known example of that, right? So it's kind of, is that, but that's the general vibe.
We've made it generic because there'll be alternatives very shortly.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
So
I just wanted to clarify.
Don't say
that.
Starlink because you don't have to buy into Elon Musk.
It's like Hoover is to vacuum cleaners or whatever it is, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Secondly, so the things that you've sort of noted in the plan, like they sort of tie to me, like as the peninsula gaining resilience and infrastructure strength too, because it can act as an engine for economic development. I think that's kind of sort of part of that underlying, right? So in terms of for the whole city, in terms of visitor experience economy, is that sort of something that the board's thought about as well, and the ability to deliver on that?
100%, yes. It is seen as part of the product. That is people come to Christchurch, that Banks Peninsula is part of that product to in tourism, to make sure that that's protected,
people, right?
to attract people,
to do good
but
stuff.
to protect that,
Yeah.
and to protect Christchurch's reputation in that, there needs to be investment.
That makes sense.
The other side of that, of course, is the well-being of the people who visit.
Yeah.
For the benefit.
Well, that's part of kind of
if
what
you go to
I'm
Akaroa
as
this
well.
weekend, it will
Yeah.
be full, mainly of people from Christchurch, benefiting from it.
Imagine when they get a hot pools. Anyway, and just so in terms of the recovery, and I'm actually speaking specifically about Little River, Lynn.
Yes.
So is there something that we can do to, you talked about the Climate Resilience Fund.
Yes.
Is there something that we can do right now to increase levels of service, to keep culverts clear, to dig out river channels? Like, are they things that need to be done right now, or is there a level of urgency there?
Ongoing maintenance is always a level of urgency. So, yes, there is. We're coming up to winter. People are wondering what these new changes with some of our rivers, which have changed their path, what that actually means, and what that means for our culverts, clearing our culverts. So ongoing maintenance. There has been a good job, fantastic job, especially with the roading team and the waters team. That needs to be maintained 100%. Yes, there's also some really cool options on the horizon for mitigation too that we're working on.
Okay, good. Aren't we lucky? We've used up all our time. Sorry, Jan, you won't be able to have
Fantastic. Thank you very much, team.
Good on you. Oh, and Lynn, by the way, I drove up that, is it Bachelor's Road?
Yes.
I actually rang the contractor and told him what a fantastic... Have you been up there since?
I haven't been up. I haven't seen it yet.
Go for a drive. It's outstanding.
So it looks like back to normal? You couldn't tell?
Yep.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
It's a lot of work.
No, well done.
Fantastic.
Okay, we've got Sunita and Simon, please.
Kia ora, Mayor and Councillors. First, we will be presenting our monthly report, and then we'll go into annual plan submission. So, I am Sunita Gautam, and I'm here with my deputy, Simon. So, the first public forum we had was from Ruth Davis, Neighbourhood Trust, regarding the work they do, and they came in and they've invited us on several occasions to their activity. So their work span goes from community work to health, support for elder people in the community, and environmental initiatives as well. We had Dave Gardner from Canford Basin, and some other issues presented about challenges which Canford Street Basin has got for some time. We had also Dr. Poliski Christoph, who came in from Little Poland Park, landscape plan approval. The community is super pleased with Community Board and Council's work. They consulted on playground plan, and they have come to a consensus where a community is happy for plan to go ahead. And next we had summer with your neighbors with Atlas Apartment. On top you can see they had a great turnout with resident where they catch up with their neighbors. Also, we Redwood Play Center had a wonderful Christmas celebration with tamariki and whānau in the community. We received great feedback from community thanking board.
Staff recently supported Papanui House of Hoops event in collaboration with Te Ora Hau and Youth and Cultural Development, YCD. That event was hosted at Te Ora Hau, and we had 9 teams of rangatahi attending that. So that's 3-on-3 basketball. And there's been a series of those events run by YCD around the city, with a final, was going to be last month, it's been rescheduled to the 12th of April. Be a great one for councillors to put in their calendars. And alongside the games, there was music, food, and just opportunities for the community to connect. And out of that as well has come some further collaboration conversations between Te Ora Hau and YCD. Also acknowledging park staff along with residents and volunteers who participated in a clean-up at Petrie Park, and there's another one of those coming up heading into winter.
Our board also supported a fantastic Saraswati Puja festival at Phillipstown Hub. And the event was attended by about 300 to 350 guests. It was a great celebration of community resilience and the multicultural and ethnic group around in that area. Also, there was an annual summer in the Sticks Mill event, which was facilitated by Sticks Living Laboratory Trust. And it was a free event for the community to come and learn more about the amazing conservation mahi done in Christchurch.
The Revolution Cafe at Richmond Community Garden has a new structure there, new gazebo. It's a sort of warm covered space that's bookable by the community, as well as providing amenity for people at the cafe. So acknowledging the funders of that. And we had Richmond Community Gala just at the weekend with, as usual, a huge range of activities and events happening there, and competitions for people to enter as well, everything from preserves to wonky veggies.
Phillipstown Party for the People was held at Phillipstown Hub in March and was marked by a fantastic vibe with music, delicious food, fun activities. It also allowed for a genuine conversation for our community, where we encourage the community to take part in the board plan consultation and share their ideas about what matters most in the local area.
And last month, board and staff visited St James Ave with the support of our council arborist and head of transport to have a look at the street trees there. That's on the back of one of the mature trees there falling onto a private property just in recent months in one of our high wind events. And we were able to take a look at the trees down that street, some of the issues with how they interact with, as you can see in that photo, power lines, how the trees have to be managed, the street environment itself, and how well the trees grow there. Acknowledging as well that this is one of our war memorial avenues, so these trees are a living war memorial and there's high community value placed on that. However, trees also have a finite life and bring various risks and hazards as they grow and mature. A comment from staff was that if these trees were growing in a park, they'd probably be twice the size, and it just shows the stress they're under, I guess, from growing in a road environment as opposed to a more natural environment. But it's a consideration for our board and staff into the long term around how do we manage assets that bring not just amenity but high social value, but ultimately our trees don't live forever. Also noting Windermere Road itself was due for a reconstruction 15 years ago. It's another one of those projects impacted by earthquakes and everything we've seen since then, so that's also a consideration for us.
Cool, thank you. We will get into our annual plan submission.
Oh, look at that, it's right there.
Yep, cool. So thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of Waipapa Papanui Inner Central Community Board. We appreciate the work that has gone into the draft annual plan, and we acknowledge the challenge of balancing financial constraints with the needs of growing city. Today, we focus on one central message. Community investment is not optional. It is essential to the long-term well-being, resilience, and success of our city. Simon?
Thank you. So our board submission is that we ask council to keep rates as low as possible while ensuring service levels are met, including in relation to impacts on community wellbeing and safety. in that a cut to investment in the short term can have long-term impacts financially as well as to the amenity and value of our community. There was a brief moment of confusion I'm just going to own up to as we were writing our submission in relation to contestable community grants, and at one point we were conflating that with Strengthening Communities Fund. Our written submission reflects our final position on that, and acknowledging the ongoing investment in strengthening communities, and really appreciate the proposed funding level there. We would like to see the contestable grants maintained as they are budgeted, and just noted it wasn't clear to us either if the alternative option that was in the consultation, what the impacts would be if that path was followed.
So through consultation and direct engagement, we know what matters in our community board area: climate resilience, drinking water, road and footpath, transport choices, park and green spaces. So our communities are very clear that they want current service level maintained, and they want climate resilience to remain as a priority for Christchurch City Council. In transport, we would be concerned to see reductions to anything impacting road safety. Issues that we've highlighted in our submission include concerns on the Northern Line cycleway at St James Park, heading towards Harewood Road, the narrowing of the cycleway there. A missing section of cycle lane on Preston's Road, in between Hills Road and the new housing developments just sort of west of there, the Oak Bridge area. And also the need for safety improvements along the Northcote Road corridor, which links the Northern Line cycleway with the QE2 Drive shared path, and we have our very busy environment around there, not only in road traffic, but we've also got our two schools that are right there, as well as the large supermarket. We are urging sort of ongoing work on the Northcote Road corridor itself, considering both short-term and intermediate safety, as well as the long-term plan for that corridor. And just noting, and I'm sure we'll be back in our LTP submission, the need for improvements to that corridor and the Northcote Greers Sawyers Arms intersection just at the west end of that road. Both of which are currently outside long-term plan budgets. We also support on the ongoing maintenance and mitigation associated with the Northern Corridor and the DEMP funding, Downstream Effects Management Plan, and highlight that in the past we've also asked for priority on red light cameras on Cranford Street at both Westminster Street and the English Park pedestrian crossing, where there's high volumes of traffic, but also high volumes of primary school children crossing the road. And another key transport issue to mention is in relation to the Grassmere development in Cranford Basin, and the impact currently of heavy vehicles accessing that site. Councillors will recall a member of the public bringing a petition last year to council in relation to concerns around that, and we're urging or advocating for some improvements to access to mitigate that. And finally, just noting our support for the Central City Shuttle. And that's me again. On our green spaces, through Better Off funding, our board funded a SEPTED report for McFarlane Park, which highlighted need to address issues in relation to public toilets and community safety and amenity there. And an annual plan resolution supporting planning work ahead of the LTP would really help us with that. Other projects that we would want to see continue to be funded include Westminster Park, Shirley Community Reserve, Phillipstown Community Hub, and the Papanui Youth Recreation Space Facility project. Parks and green spaces, just highlighting how essential they are as infrastructure in our communities as we continue to intensify as well. Looking after our people and asset, we must continue to invest in street renewals and footpath, aging infrastructure, street trees management, and community safety initiative. We also emphasize that planning for urban growth and responsible investment in 3 water space should be considered, because well-maintained infrastructure is not just about function, it is about dignity, safety, and accessibility. Climate change is not a future issue, it is current reality. We strongly support flood mitigation program, climate resilience funding, and environmental partnership. We must also invest in community preparedness, civil defense, and emergency planning, because prepared communities recover faster and experience less long-term disruption. So we urge to continue the efforts. We urge Council to avoid short-term decision that creates long-term cost. A resilient, safe, and connected community in Waipapa, Papua Nui, and is central, continues directly to a stronger Christchurch. If we invest wisely now, we build a city that is not only functional, but thriving, inclusive, and future-ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No, I've got a question. Down in Northcote Road, Simon, as you know, and it'd be something for you to chase up if you wouldn't mind, is you notice it heading away from St. Bede's towards airport. On the left-hand side, a lot of that, I'm sure we own a lot of that land because there's a lot of the fences are already set back.
There's designations on both sides of that corridor. Some of it, I think, some of it we own, some of it there's a designation on, but not currently council owned.
Where I'm coming from here is if we owned everything on one side, we can surely take that over and slam a cycleway down there. Don't get everyone fall over the word cycleway coming out of my mouth. But if we owned it all, that joins those 2 big cycleways up on land we already own, which wouldn't cause any grief to traffic.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, and a concern we have is the designation is set to expire. I'm looking at Councillor Henstock. Is it this year?
It's
if not
sometime
next year, this year. Yes. So we're going to have to be careful there.
No, 36 seconds. You can't do a question in that. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Yep. Yes, we have a mover and seconder for the Com Board reports. Victoria is moving and Pauline is seconding. All those in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. And it's now, look, geez, we're good. 11:15, we're back to hear some